Welcome back to the GiveNOLA Day Playbook. I'm your host, Maya McGee. This is part 3 of our series. So far, we've covered how to plan early and build a message that converts, how to optimize your GiveNOLA Day profile, and now it's time to talk about the part that actually drives donations, getting the word out. We're going to break down how to coordinate your promotion across channels, how to build and activate an ambassador strategy, and how to make sure all of this works together without overwhelming your team. If you haven't downloaded the GiveNOLA Day Playbook Worksheet yet, now's a great time to do so. Grab it by going to our show notes or at comfystone.com/GiveNOLA Day Playbook. Now let's go greet our panel. Welcome back to the GiveNOLA Day Playbook series. Rachel, Diana, and Megan are back with us today, and we're getting into the part everyone wants to know. How do you actually get people to donate? Let's get into it. So, Diana, I'm going to start with you. What promotional efforts actually drive the most donations for Be Loud?
Yeah, so we do some sort of like big blasts, right? We're going to email 5 times to our entire donor base. We're going to tell the stories of how impacts are happening within Be Loud on those email blasts. We'll also do that on Instagram. We'll have some really targeted Instagram posts, and we also like to story those so we can include the link. I think that always helps as well. But really the main way that we drive donors to our page is through our ambassadors. And ambassadors can be just Be Loud cheerleaders. Everyone from our board members to our staff members to parents who have kids in our program, all of them are going to join like what I call the ambassador team. Mm-hmm. And that group of people is going to be asking their communities to give to Be Loud. So it's a lot of different people telling the Be Loud story from their perspective. And that group of people has really driven the most donations for us. Last year, we had over 500 donations, and about half of those came from our ambassador team. So not me asking people, not our staff or some of our staff members, but really like community members asking their friends, families, community members if they will join in the Be Loud mission.
Were there any efforts or actions that surprised you that were successful or didn't work?
I think what always surprises me is sort of that these mass communications are not super effective. They're important, right? They're important background noise. I think they're important to solidify the Be Loud message. But really what works most successfully is if people are sending individual text messages, making calls to their community members, making these smaller asks on a one-to-one level that make a big difference. I always say like GiveNOLA only works if we do. It's not going to work to just throw our message out. We have to really talk to people about it. We have to really make personal asks.
Yeah. You stole the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that one-to-one connection and using your network to really connect to somebody, I think helps drive it instead of that broad kind of casting of a net approach.
Exactly. Yep.
So I would love to dig deeper into ambassadors because it kind of came up in one of our previous episodes. We've all kind of mentioned it. This is a question for everybody. How do you find them? How do you activate them? How do you keep them engaged? We'll start with Diana.
Yeah, so we have probably about 20 ambassadors that we start with. And again, this is staff members, board members. I have a roommate from college who's an education professor who is always one of our top ambassadors. And we start with a big kickoff call. So in early April, we get everyone on the call and we remind them of the why of Be Loud. We first really invest them in our mission, get people excited about the work we've been doing in the last year. And then we do a lot of logistics. Here's your toolkit. Here's the posts you can make. Here's the messaging you should use. And we make sure it's really accessible for everyone to be able to jump on and create their own messaging. Some ambassadors really like to make the donation pages. I believe that's what it's called, right, Rachel?
Fundraising campaign.
Campaign. So that really helps them track exactly how many people are coming to their page and how many donors did they get and how much money did they specifically fundraise for Be Loud. That has been really awesome. Some of our ambassadors get really into that work. And then I think of myself like really stepping back then as GiveNOLA Day begins to happen, as early giving happens, and really acting more as a coach for our ambassadors. Mm-hmm. So sending updates sending tips to everyone, texting people like, hey, I saw you got some people to give today. Thank you so much. Really kind of acting as the coach for the whole team of ambassadors rather than just driving Be Loud myself.
I've taken so many notes while you're talking, Diana. I'm like nerding out. I want to kind of, to borrow Rachel's phrase, double click on something that you said about mass communications. I really appreciate that you mentioned that if that's your only way of outreach, for example, it probably won't be that effective. The most important thing, I'm going to say it again, is a holistic approach. And those one-to-one touches are so important. So how you integrate like your mass comms into those one-to-one touches really matters, like thinking through that strategy. For e-newsletters, for example, or e-blasts, if we're going to pick on that, I would say in just based on the context you've given us here, like using those e-blasts almost as reminders. Yeah. Hey, we're 5 days away from GiveNOLA Day. Hey, we've only got X number, $2,000 left to reach our goal. Like thinking through, because even if folks are only looking at a subject line, it still counts as a reminder in their inbox. Definitely. And if they find that information useful or interesting, they're more likely to click, and there's your open rate, and hooray. But it also is a way to kind of underline and reiterate your messaging and that essential mission all throughout your campaign. And all you need is a glance, really, to just kind of make sure to remind people why they're doing what they're doing. So I'm excited about that, the importance of that call to action. But I also wanted to follow up and ask you a question about if you all have provided an ambassador toolkit. And what I mean by that is kind of tangible, like a one-sheeter or talking points, or how do you set your ambassadors up for success when they're making those one-to-one asks and then in the follow-up of that ask?
Yeah, so we have just a Google Sheet of links to here's where you find your Instagram posts. Here's where you find your messaging that you might say. And we do break it down, right? Like if you want to make a phone call, here's how it might sound. If you want to make a Facebook post, here's how it might sound. And so I think that our ambassadors have felt really supported in that. And then we also do make sure that they have the list of donors who have given so they can follow up with people who they're like, hey, I actually did ask this person and they're not on our list. So I'm going to ask them again. And then I do give tips throughout the time as well. Just like, hey, good time to top of inbox people. Remind them again. Give an emphasis to the text message you maybe sent your cousin, whatever it takes to just kind of remind them. But yeah, we definitely provide all those resources. And that's something we go over within this ambassador kickoff call.
Love that. I wanted to note too the importance of that one-to-one touch. I think sometimes folks worry that they're going to get annoying, but we like to say people buy people don't buy products. People really, they're investing in the trust that they have for that other person that's connected to the organization. And so like if Maya texts me and says, hey, oh my gosh, did you see this news feature that came out about Be Loud? And like, I hope, are you all set for GiveNOLA Day? Yeah. I'm a lot more likely to be like, heck yeah, versus getting like that generic email in my inbox.
Also, I think you have to get out of your head, right? I wouldn't text you every month and be like, hey, Be Loud, hey, Be Loud. Like, right? I would text you maybe twice a year about this organization that I'm passionate about. And I think people have to remember that like one text or two texts a year to somebody asking for them to support something you are passionate about isn't being spammy or annoying. It's just spreading information about something you think they will care about.
And I think an interesting part about GiveNOLA Day, because it's online, is it's a great opportunity for your ambassadors or for your organization to tap into folks that aren't local. I think we benefit from being in a really great region that does some pretty incredible things that folks from all over the country and all around the world want to be a part of. Our culture, our music, our food, the sort of life. And a great way to give people an opportunity to connect is through GiveNOLA Day. We have often found that the highest giving in the top 10 zip codes occurs outside of New Orleans. And granted, a lot of that could be one major gift to one organization, but it's a great sort of flag of remember there are people outside of our region. Because I do think a lot of folks are going to get a lot of emails. And every year folks reach out to the foundation and ask us to take them off email lists. And we have to remind them that they're actually getting these emails from the region's nonprofits. And how cool is it that they're so invested in our region's nonprofits? And sometimes they see it that way. But the idea of the one-to-one communication kind of also emphasizes this, because sure, I might get a generic email and maybe I have my email filter set that I'm not going to get it. It might go in my promotions folder or something. But if you forward it to me, it's going to come into my inbox. So that's where, even if all you can ask some folks to do is forward an email to 5 folks, that's a great additional small push. And I really appreciate what you said. It's sort of about nudges and concern about perception of being seen as rude or pushy.
Yeah.
And because GiveNOLA Day is one day, I think a lot of times people do get a little worried about, I can't harass people. But I think if you reach out at 10 a.m. and you reach out at 6 p.m., that's not harassing.
Yeah.
I mean, we all probably get more communications from the National Weather Service, you know, and you are, like you said, sharing information about something important that you as that individual see alignment between this organization and this person you're asking, or alignment between this person's belief and what I believe in also. So I think if you've got the capacity for a whole toolkit and a kickoff call, and I mean whole toolkit, you know, a compilation of information about your organization, that's fantastic. If all you can do is ask your board members to forward the email, that's a great ask as well, because then they're putting your message out there, hopefully with their own intro of like, I serve on the board of this organization. I know they do great work and are really making this change in my community. I hope as my friend, family, colleague, whatever, you would also consider supporting.
Thank you for mentioning that it's also just a Google Doc that you put together, because I think toolkit can sound overwhelming, but a bulleted list is a toolkit and is useful to your ambassadors. Also, you mentioned, Megan, earlier about the subject line. I think if all you have is your email list, you don't have a group of ambassadors that can do that one-on-one touches. I think you said something like the subject line being, we're $2,000 away from our goal. You know, that midday or evening push is also helpful, because that would make me open an email, right? Like if I got an email from an org and it said we're $2,000 away from our goal, I might be like, all righty, let me help you get to the finish line. Like I think that communication still gives that as close to the one-on-one you can get if you don't have the capacity to have ambassadors and a whole team with you.
Megan, I'm really excited, though, about what your ideas you have for this ambassador toolkit. What should we be including as nonprofits?
Absolutely. And I want to reiterate, too, that, something is better than nothing. You know, I love the idea of having a simple Google Doc and starting there, building on it year over year. There's true value there.
Very true. I
think that's important. In a perfect world where you've started 6 months out and you've really thought through everything, there are a few kind of key things that I would go to first. Certainly talking points for your ambassadors. I love a suggested copy, sample text. Like, what does the email look like? What does the phone call potentially look like? Even if your ambassadors aren't going to follow that exactly, just giving them a place to start where it doesn't feel overwhelming, or, sometimes it's hard to pick up the phone, especially if it's your kind of first time really getting involved, helping them overcome that hurdle. Certainly shareable graphics, photos, like anything that can help them pull information together to put on their social media to say, hey, I am so excited and enthusiastic about Be Loud. I also just being that bulldog for your brand, it's so important that we provide those elements to our ambassadors to be able to easily share, because otherwise they're going to go looking for them on their own, and they're going to pull them from Google. They're going to pull maybe an old photo off your website that you forgot was there. And then you don't get to protect your brand in the same way that you would if it was curated material, if that makes sense. You can throw all of this into a Dropbox too. It can be super easy, or like a Google Drive. I'm also a big fan of a one-sheeter. The reason why I love that so much, or even if you just have a brochure, is because think about it from our perspective. Like, we're all busy people. Everyone is like a busy professional or caught up in their daily life. And so I'm going to call Rachel and I'm going to say, gosh, I got to tell you about Be Loud. By the way, don't let me forget. I'm an ambassador for Be Loud. I want to talk to you about them. GiveNOLA Day. Will you give $20? Rachel says, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to just send you this thing and then I'm going to text you. Sound good? Like it can really be that simple and that informal, but then I have to actually send Rachel that brochure, that one sheeter, so she can just kind of save it in her email. Like this is the nuance, but this is what it is, the experience of being an ambassador and a consumer in our market and in our environment today.
I think having it in different sizes and formats, right? You mentioned a one sheeter, but I'm also like, I'd love a story post format, right? Like with your branding and maybe something I can put on my feed so that the integrity of the nonprofit's brand is intact and looks professionally, like nicely put together and cohesive across everyone's efforts.
Make it so easy. And give folks a timeline, like give them deadlines, tell them exactly what you want. Don't be vague. You're not bossing them around, like this is what you need and they want to show up for you.
Yeah.
I would also offer that you can share that these folks would be not looped into your regular donor base. It might be that like Maya, if I'm asking you to ask your friends email addresses aren't going to go in my all the time email list. You might say,
that's a good point.
I'll reach out to 10 folks and when they donate through Maya's fundraising page, they should not get all the communications. They should get thanked. They should be, appropriately acknowledged, but this is only an ask like on my behalf kind of thing. So I think that's an okay thing to do because I think sort of on the other side of the Giving Day, people are like, well, what am I signing up for? And it might be that they're like, you know what, I believe in what you're sharing and I'm doing this because you're asking and you could be asking me for X, Y, or Z and I'd be doing it.
Yes.
And so leave me out of the later action. Though we would hope that they'd be so swayed and we would know that the awesome work of the nonprofit would convince them
they want
to join
regular
the mailing
updates.
list. Yeah.
You mentioned page. So I think you mentioned that the ambassadors can create their own like sub page through the GiveNOLA Day platform. Diana, Rachel, do one of y'all want to take this one and kind of explain how that's built?
Yeah, it's super easy. It's basically the ambassador just jumps on the page of the organization, and then they can build their own page. Last time it was like you pushed a plus button.
From an organization's profile, an individual can make a fundraising page that feeds into that organization's overall fundraising.
Okay.
It can have its own goal. You can put like your own picture, like the donor's picture or whatever to be like, hey, this is really me. It's not spam asking you to give or whatever. And there's a couple already in play for this coming year.
I just was going to say that ties back to when you were talking about certain photos an organization might have that don't fit on the main page, but like board members, if you got a professional, nice photo, this is a place to use that photo on your specific fundraiser campaign page.
And this year, an organization can make a fundraiser template that an individual can sort of copy. So you can give that base language, that templatized stuff to bounce off of, which is a neat upgrade.
I love that. I want to mention too, just while I'm sitting here thinking about ambassadors, is to really, especially if you're working farther out, as we hope everyone is, thinking about being creative in using ambassadorship around GiveNOLA Day as an opportunity to build new connections. I mean, really, first we want to make sure that any ambassador that is representing your organization is someone that you want representing your organization. Be mindful about who you're approaching and are they going to use the tools and the toolkit and be proactive for your organization. And do you want that? One, but two, if you're thinking ahead of time, it's a great opportunity to kind of reach out to our community leaders. And that doesn't have to be like our elected officials or like our big name CEOs, even though that's so great and we love that. But it could even be like church leaders. It could be school directors. It could be anyone who is going to have trust with that specific audience that you're trying to reach and using it to reach out to them, take a meeting, shake a hand, cultivate a relationship over time. I think one of the things that is so fantastic about GiveNOLA Day is it really provides an anchor and an opportunity for our nonprofits to reflect on their fundraising strategy and their PR and communication strategies for the whole year. Like use that opportunity to say, hey, this is how we want to grow.
I think, Diana, during our conversation prepping for this, we kind of talked about this, and I said it could be the person you know who's really into pickleball, right? Like if that person is committed to the organization, is going to ask everyone on their pickleball team. They don't have to be a politician or a well-known person in the community. They just have to be passionate and want to use the toolkit.
Yep.
Megan, can you talk us through how you think nonprofits can best coordinate their communications through the different channels?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy task. So if you're someone who maybe is not as familiar with communications and PR, and you dive in and you say, oh my gosh, there is a lot going on here. You're right.
You are correct.
Right. Don't underestimate the communications because it can be a heavy lift. So, again, I know we've said it, but identify those folks on your team or bring in a consultant, like Gamble or like another agency or someone who knows what they're doing to really help you facilitate everything because it can be a lot to manage. First, we have our digital channels that's really everything under the sun that is digital. Today, it's like everything, right? Like from our website, our social media across multiple platforms. I would recommend to, as I'm touching on social media, don't choose GiveNOLA Day as an opportunity to start a TikTok. Like, no. Don't be like, I just wouldn't recommend. Like, let's use the channels that we've really cultivated all year long and the built-in audience is there.
Where your audience is and has been, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So let's kind of lean into where those strengths are, use it as an opportunity to build and grow, but, identify what those platforms are digitally. If you have an e-newsletter, I really love that. It can be an effective tool when it's, integrated into the whole echelon of platforms. And then, of course, our GiveNOLA Day profile. When we're thinking even beyond that, we really can't forget the importance of our press and media outreach. Press and media, let me give you an example of why it's so important. First of all, anytime anybody's going to search for your organization outside of the GiveNOLA Day profile and your website, that's the first thing that they're going to find, I hope, is some really beautiful earned media. That includes now in the AI summary, when you pull up Google, you're going to see that first. That's pulling from earned media first and foremost, or in your links on Google. That helps, again, this word legitimacy, but it really helps build trust in an instant. So that's important. Also, let's say that you really don't have the capacity to build out an ambassador toolkit. Sometimes just a couple of great news articles that you've been able to secure about the great work that you're doing in the community over even the last year, sometimes is enough that an ambassador needs to pass along.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have that brochure, but you did have that great feature that came out. Give them the link and say, text it to everybody. Sometimes that's all you need. And so it really underlines, that's what I mean when I say it underlines and supports all of the work that you do going forward in development and fundraising. And then, coming back to photography and video and high resolution video. It's not necessarily a platform, but you need it like in all of those things across all of those platforms. So you have to take that time to map it out. A content calendar is where I would start for all of your digital platforms. What am I posting where? And I know that this is hard, especially when we lack resources, but my best piece of advice is do not post the same content across the board everywhere. Even if it's even if the idea is 5 days, till GiveNOLA Day, let's say that's the message you're trying to get across. I want to see that message told in different ways on all of our different platforms. And so that could be a change of a photo, if you're really stretched for time. It could be that you post that 5 days, left only on Facebook where you think it's going to be the most effective or whatever, but like really thinking through, why does this platform exist? Who am I reaching and what do they want to hear from me? And that takes time to plot out.
Yeah.
I can't emphasize that enough. Like, I appreciate the idea of not that GiveNOLA Day can't be for trying some stuff out, but to put some of your time into something totally unknown, especially for the audience you're trying to reach, isn't the best use of time. If you get a lot of engagement on email, do email. If you have folks like liking or reacting or engaging with your content on a specific platform, maybe that's the platform you focus on, because the folks you're connecting with are already somewhere, and it's figuring out where they are, which you probably have a good idea of already, and how you reach them. And it could be that it's word of mouth, and it is the best investment of your time to engage your strongest supporters to be ambassadors.
I think that's a good point, because I think it's about, when you look at that strategy, what's your number one, It's one of those options you just listed, and that kind of is going to be different for everybody depending on who's your audience and what your capacity is.
Mm-hmm. I do also want to make sure to emphasize like having a plan and having an idea in advance and sticking to it, because frantic last minute anythings is not going to instill that confidence that we've talked about and that trust. So, excited communications of we only have $2,000 left to our goal is a different vibe than please give now, please give now, please give now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would reiterate that too by saying, we're thinking, when we're talking about building trust in a visual way, right? Like maybe I don't know this organization at all. Maybe I've never met the CEO, but I'm still thinking about giving because Rachel told me to, then I'm going to go look. If I'm looking at your Facebook page and you've posted the same graphic every week for 6 weeks, that to me is not trust building, because what that tells me in an instant, and at least I'm speaking as a person in communications, is that you haven't really thought through a strategy. Like, you haven't sat there and thought through what does my audience need to know? What do I need to convey? And also, what have you been doing for the past 6 weeks in your organization that you aren't going to tell me about it, or you haven't taken a photo? These are all you're not really telling me anything. And so I see that a lot where nonprofits are just posting the same graphic over and over. So that's the importance of taking those pictures while you're working, and really thinking about your messaging. But also, you don't have to overthink it either. My biggest kind of hot tip is let your messaging evolve in phases. So we know, okay, we're going to start communicating 3 months out. We don't have to say, hey guys, you're going to give on GiveNOLA Day in 3 months. As New Orleanians, we're not paying attention to any of that. We're busy. it's Mardi Gras.
It's Mardi Gras.
Yeah. I start by thinking, okay, we already know that the audience we're going to reach in 3 months is around the summer camp. We want people to contribute to make the summer camps possible, if I'm be loud. So who is that audience? I'm going to pick on you in an instant and say maybe parents, with a little disposable income, grandparents, maybe folks who are heavily involved in children's, advocacy in our community. So that's our audience. Okay, great. So how are we going to reach those folks? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is go get find something newsworthy and interesting to talk about, which I'm sure there is a ton in what you're already programming because you're so involved in the work already. Let's get some media around it. Let's start sharing those media stories out. Just that link or that, hey, we were on Fox Morning Show this morning. That's where we kind of start. And then as we get closer and closer to actual giving, that's when we start in with testimonials and having our, the kids come on and do some great videos that we post on social and share on our newsletter, and it can happen over time. So we know for these 2 weeks, we're going to talk about this testimonial. 2 weeks from now, we're going to start getting people ready to give. 2 weeks from then, you see what I mean? You can kind of phase it out. That. Exactly. It doesn't have to be hard. I'm going to cut that. It is hard.
It takes intention and
yes.
thought. Yeah. So the hard part is the making the plan. But in making the plan, you're setting that whole thanking your future self. Setting yourself up for success.
I just want to add one more thing before we move on from talking about press and media. I have a lot of clients who say, should we hold a press conference on GiveNOLA Day? And my answer is usually no. I don't know that I would typically recommend it. It's not usually advisable, especially for smaller organizations, especially with an understaffed media, because usually, the request is for broadcast. And anyway, what I would advise, though, is a celebration where media could potentially be invited. That's going to involve your donors, your ambassadors, your folks to really celebrate that day and gather everyone, and maybe even watch the clock tick as you're watching those goals come through. That actually is a lot of fun. And sometimes there are opportunities to get press and media involved at those events.
Good to know. So everyone, what is your simple one takeaway for helping nonprofits promote themselves? Rachel, I'll start with you.
I think really it's figuring out who might not be being already alerted to GiveNOLA Day. It might be folks that live out of town. It could be having your ambassadors connect with their networks to get that one-on-one touch, but trying to find those unique individuals and make that one-on-one touch.
Megan?
Start a content calendar. Do it right now. If you don't already have one, you need one.
Yeah. Very good idea. Diana?
Mine is assemble your ambassador team. And I really like what Rachel said about this might be just one board member, or it might be 20 different people. Whatever that team can look like, get some more people on your GiveNOLA team.
Cool. Well, thank you again for joining me for another episode. Our final episode, episode 4, we'll dive into what to do after GiveNOLA Day. Thanks for watching the GiveNOLA Day Playbook. Don't forget there's a free worksheet that goes along with the full series. It covers all 4 episodes and gives a complete customizable action plan that you can take with you straight into your GiveNOLA Day campaign. Download your copy at comfystone.com/GiveNOLA Day Playbook.